In just over a decade, Turkey has pulled off something remarkable. It's transformed its military from a regionally focused defense force into a global expeditionary power. Its armed forces, already the second largest in NATO, are now deployed across some of the most volatile regions on Earth, from the deserts of Libya to the fractured landscapes of Syria and Iraq. This isn't just about boots on the ground. It's a revolution powered by high-tech military hardware, designed and built in Turkey. This surge of influence has redrawn maps, decided battles, and left world powers scrambling to figure out Ankara's next move. Turkey is building a battle-hardened military, and it's not afraid to use it. The big question is no longer if Turkey is a major military power, but what kind of power it plans to be. Is this new influence a force for stability, a welcome peacemaker in a chaotic world? Or is it the work of a provocateur, an ambitious nation, sparking the next global conflict? If you want to understand the speed of this transformation, you don't need a military parade. You need a music video. In the early days of the Ukraine war, a viral video swept the internet. It wasn't a politician's speech or grim footage from the front. It was a catchy pop song, an anthem to a weapon, the Bayraktar TB2, a Turkish-made drone. The song became a symbol of resistance, and the drone became a legend. It was a stark announcement to the world. Turkish military technology wasn't just a domestic project anymore, it was a global force, capable of shaping modern wars. This moment was the peak of a decades-long strategy, born from necessity and fueled by ambition. Once heavily reliant on Western arms, Turkey now runs a formidable military-industrial complex of its own. But how did this happen? How did a nation once hit with arms embargoes become a top-tier weapons designer and exporter, whose drones are celebrated in song and whose soldiers project power thousands of miles from home? The answer is a story of defiance, innovation, and a calculated vision for power. Turkey's journey from weapons buyer to builder wasn't a choice. It was a necessity. The story really begins in the 1970s. After Turkey's invasion of Cyprus in 1974, the United States hit it with a crippling arms embargo. For the Turkish military, almost entirely dependent on American hardware, this was a wake-up call. The freeze cut off spare parts and essential systems, leaving its air force and tanks in a dangerous spot. Ankara learned a painful lesson. To have true strategic freedom, you can't depend on others for the tools of war. This realization planted the seeds of a new doctrine: self-sufficiency. For decades, progress was slow, confined to state-run projects. But the real shift came in the early 2000s under Recep Tayyip Erdogan. His government didn't just support the defense industry, it made its growth a national obsession. What started as a quest for self-reliance slowly morphed into a powerful tool of foreign policy. More recent arms restrictions from Western allies, frustrated with Ankara's actions in Syria and its purchase of the Russian S-400 missile system, only poured gasoline on this fire. The results have been staggering. Back in the early 2000s, Turkey sourced only about 20% of its defense needs from within its borders. Today, that figure is soaring towards 80%. This industrial base is backed by a massive financial commitment. The proposed defense and security budget for 2025 is a record-breaking $47 billion. Even more dramatically, President Erdogan announced a plan in June 2025 to more than double defense spending over the next decade, aiming for it to reach 5% of the country's GDP by 2035. This isn't just about modernizing an army, it's a strategic recalibration, an effort to build a military that answers to no one but Ankara. This immense investment has churned out a stunning array of advanced weapons, fundamentally changing what the Turkish military can do. The undisputed star is the Bayraktar TB2 drone. It's relatively cheap, brutally effective, and battle-tested in the world's toughest conflicts. In Libya, it was key in stopping General Khalifa Haftar's advance on Tripoli. In the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, it decimated Armenian armor, helping Azerbaijan win a decisive victory. And in Ukraine, it became a global symbol of defiance. But the TB2 is just the beginning. Turkey is rapidly moving into even more advanced systems. The most ambitious is the Khan, its own fifth-generation stealth fighter jet. The project was launched to replace Turkey's aging F-16s after it was kicked out of the F-35 program. After its maiden flight in February 2024, the Kaan program is being aggressively fast-tracked, with new prototypes in the works. In a landmark deal signed in July 2025, Indonesia became the first foreign customer, agreeing to purchase 48 of the jets. To ensure true independence, Turkish engineers are racing to develop a domestic engine for the fighter, aiming to cut all reliance on foreign parts. Now let's look at the ground. After years of development, the Altay main battle tank finally began serial production in mid-2024, with the first units expected to enter service with the armed forces in 2025. In the air, domestically produced Hurjet trainer and light attack jets are also on the way. And at sea, Turkey is not only building its own advanced corvettes and frigates, but has also sold its first naval vessels to a NATO ally, Portugal, a major milestone. Perhaps most alarmingly for its neighbors, Turkey is expanding its reach with new long-range precision weapons. At a defense fair in July 2025, Turkey unveiled the Tayfun Block 4, which it described as a hypersonic ballistic missile, and the Gazap, a massive non-nuclear thermobaric bomb designed to destroy fortified targets. Both weapons are capable of striking deep into the territories of regional rivals. This isn't just about defense anymore. This is about power projection. Turkey is building an arsenal that sends a clear message. It can touch anyone in its neighborhood, and it's building it on its own terms. An arsenal of advanced weapons is one thing. A willingness to use it is another. And it was in Libya that the world first saw the full extent of Turkey's new military doctrine in action. In 2020, the UN-recognized government in Tripoli was on the brink of collapse, besieged by the forces of Eastern warlord Khalifa Haftar, who was backed by regional powers like Egypt and the UAE. Turkey intervened decisively. Ankara sent military advisors, special forces, and its formidable drone fleet to support the government. It also controversially recruited and transported thousands of Syrian mercenaries to the front lines. The impact was immediate. Turkish drones devastated Haftar's supply lines and air defenses, stopping his offensive cold and saving the government in Tripoli. This wasn't charity. It was a calculated geopolitical move. In exchange for military support, Turkey signed a maritime agreement with the Tripoli government, carving out a huge exclusive economic zone in the eastern Mediterranean. This move is the centerpiece of what Turkey calls its Mavi Vatan, or Blue Homeland doctrine. It's an assertive naval strategy that lays claim to vast stretches of the sea, rich with potential natural gas reserves. This puts Turkey in direct confrontation with Greece, Cyprus, and Israel, who have their own overlapping claims. Turkey has backed these claims with aggressive naval deployments, using its warships to escort exploration vessels and challenge its neighbors' sovereignty. In Libya, Turkey proved it was willing to use military force far from its borders to achieve strategic goals. It showed its drones could be kingmakers in a civil war, and through its Blue Homeland doctrine, it signaled it was ready to challenge the established order in the eastern Mediterranean, with force if necessary. For supporters, Turkey acted as a peacemaker, stabilizing a UN-recognized government. For critics, it was a provocateur, pouring fuel on a fire and using military might to enforce legally dubious claims that have seriously raised the risk of conflict. While Libya showed Turkey's expeditionary reach, its operations in Syria and Iraq reveal a more entrenched part of its military power. For decades, Turkey has been locked in a war with the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, which it considers a terrorist organization. That conflict has increasingly spilled across its southern borders. In response, Turkey has escalated its cross-border operations into a permanent, expanding presence. In northern Iraq, Turkey has set up dozens of military bases and outposts, from which it launches regular strikes against PKK strongholds. This campaign, framed as counterterrorism, has drawn sharp criticism from the Iraqi government in Baghdad, which sees the bases as a violation of its sovereignty. The situation in Syria is even more dramatic. After years of backing opposition groups against Bashar al-Assad, Turkey's position was transformed by the regime's sudden collapse in December 2024. With the rise of a new transitional government in Damascus, led by the former head of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, Ahmed al-Sharaa, Ankara has pivoted from being a patron of rebels to the primary international backer of a new Syrian state. Turkey is now leveraging this position to cement its influence, deepening its military and political foothold in northern Syria, while seeking to shape the country's future. This has created new friction points, particularly with Israel, which is wary of Turkey's growing power in a country it has long viewed through the prism of Iranian threats. On this northern front, the Peacemaker versus Provocateur debate is stark. Ankara argues its actions are essential for national security, creating buffer zones against terrorists. It positions itself as a stabilizing force crucial to both counterterrorism and the formation of a post-Assad Syria. But for critics in Baghdad and some Kurdish factions, Turkey is an occupying power, violating international law to pursue expansionist ambitions. They see the permanent bases and deep political involvement not as peacekeeping, but as a slow-motion annexation of sovereign territory. Turkey's assertive military posture creates a complicated balancing act on the world stage. As a cornerstone of NATO, its independent and often unilateral actions have caused major friction. Its purchase of the Russian S-400 air defense system got it kicked out of the F-35 fighter jet program and created ongoing tensions with Washington. Yet, Turkey remains indispensable to the alliance. It controls the strategic Bosphorus Strait and has NATO's second-largest army. This gives Ankara unique leverage, letting it pursue its own interests while still benefiting from the alliance's security umbrella. This balancing act is also visible in its foreign policy. Turkey is simultaneously strengthening military ties with Balkan nations, applying for membership in the BRICS group of non-Western powers, and trying to modernize its customs union with the EU. It's a multi-aligned strategy designed to give it maximum freedom by not relying on any single bloc. A key part of this strategy is its booming arms export industry. What began as a project for self-sufficiency has become a powerful diplomatic tool. Turkey is now the world's 11th largest arms exporter, and its sales are skyrocketing. In 2024, its defense and aerospace exports hit a record $7.1 billion, and they're on pace to grow even more. Turkish military hardware is especially attractive to nations in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, looking for alternatives to American, European, or Russian gear. Ankara is often more willing to offer deals that include technology transfer and co-production, and its equipment comes with fewer political strings attached. Selling a Bayraktar drone or an armored vehicle isn't just a business deal. It's the start of a strategic relationship. It's a way to build influence and create partners who are invested in Turkey's success, allowing Ankara to build a network of alliances completely independent of its traditional Western partners. So, we return to the central question: is Turkey's expanding military power a force for peace or a provocation for war? The truth, as it often is, depends entirely on where you stand. From Ankara's perspective and the view of its allies, Turkey is an essential agent of stability. They would argue that the Turkish intervention in Libya saved a UN-backed government and stopped a bloody siege. They would point to its operations in Syria and Iraq as necessary counterterrorism measures that protect Turkish citizens and bring order to lawless borderlands. They see Turkey's defense industry as a source of national pride and a contribution to the security of its partners, offering them capable, affordable systems. In this view, Turkey is simply claiming its rightful place as a major power, shouldering security burdens that others won't. But from the perspective of its rivals, the picture looks very different. For them, Turkey is an aggressive power, determined to upend the regional status quo. Athens and Nicosia see the Blue Homeland Doctrine and the new missiles as direct threats to their sovereignty. Baghdad sees Turkey's permanent bases as a flagrant violation of its territory, and many international observers point to Turkey's use of Syrian mercenaries as a destabilizing action that exports instability. They see a nation whose actions, while framed in the language of security, are consistently raising tensions in one of the world's most volatile intersections. Ultimately, Turkey is playing a high-stakes game. Its new military might has given it the power to act decisively, to intervene in conflicts, and to reshape regional dynamics. It has become both a peacemaker and a provocateur, a stabilizer and a disruptor, often at the same time. Turkey's rise is no longer a question. It is a reality. In an astonishingly short time, it has built a world-class defense industry, deployed its forces to secure its interests abroad, and carved out a new, fiercely independent foreign policy. It has shown in Libya, Syria, and the Caucasus that its technology can win wars and its diplomacy can't be ignored. The nation stands at a crossroads, wielding a double-edged sword of its own making. This newfound power has boosted its security and global influence, but it has also fueled regional rivalries and stoked fears about its ultimate goals. The line between being a regional security provider and a regional aggressor is perilously thin. And Turkey is walking that line every single day. The question for the future is which side of that line it will fall on. What do you think? Is Turkey's rise as a military power a force that will bring a new order to the region? Or is it a dangerous provocation, a spark waiting to ignite a much larger fire? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into military strategy and geopolitics, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.